So this is the Z Fold 3 and it's been out for almost about a year now. I've had it for about that time. I haven't been using the phone daily as like my main phone every day. So that means that my SIM card isn't in this phone every day, but I do consistently use it every day. And the main reason being is because I love to use this phone for multitasking. So in this video, I just want to talk about what it's like, how it's been after 1 year. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So as far as the design and the build, how has it held up after 1 year? Honestly, pretty good. I don't necessarily take this out of the home a lot because I'm a little bit afraid still, especially because of the inner display. So I just mainly use this at home, but I have dropped it a couple times, especially when I first got it. So I tried to use a case sometimes, but cases are a bit of a hassle because some of them protect the hinge, some of them don't. Some of them make the phone bulky, some of them have some sharp corners. So I ended up giving up on cases and accidentally dropped this on concrete. So the hinge has suffered a bit. It's got some scuffs here and there as well as one little edge. But besides that, the phone itself still looks really nice in my opinion. I love the matte sides. I think it's really nice. I prefer it more than glossy, but it does have a glossy hinge, so that means there's a little bit of a fingerprint magnet, but it's honestly no big deal. Overall, the phone is a little bit slippery, so I do use a leather skin from D brand just to add a little bit of grippiness. Again, you can add a case, but I'm personally not a fan of that. So overall, it does feel pretty good in the hand. It does have some heft to it, obviously, because it's a fold phone. So it's like almost having two phones in one. So it adds a little bit of weight. But after a while, I did complain about it at first, but I got used to it eventually. And so now it's pretty comfortable. And when you do open up the device, it does a really good job of distributing the weight between the two sides. I will say that the side of the cameras is a little bit more heavier, but besides that, it does feel pretty comfortable in the hand when you have it open as well. And the whole phone itself is water resistant as well. It's an IPX7, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that means it can survive some splashes of water if you happen to splash it with water, which is good because every once in a while I will use it in the shower. So I have used it around water. It's gotten splashed every once in a while, and so far it's been holding up just fine. And as far as how the displays have held up, the front one did have a screen protector on the front, and I did end up having to take it off because I accidentally dropped another phone on top of it, so that scuffed off a little piece of the screen protector. So I just took off the whole thing. And so I do have a few minor scratches on the front, and you can get another tempered glass screen protector if you wanted to for the front, but personally, I just let it go. So it's been holding up pretty fine. The inner display also has been doing pretty fine. I have started to see a little bit of the inner display start to peel off the screen protector itself. So there are a little bit of bubbles near the crease, near the top and the bottom. And as far as that display, the crease itself, I am seeing a little bit of discoloration when you have a background that's like white. So you see a little bit of color, it's like a rainbowish color. It's not very noticeable in camera or on camera, I should say, but it's still slightly noticeable if you're looking for it. And as far as that crease, at this point, I have gotten used to it. Same thing as the under display camera. You don't notice it unless you're like actually looking for it. And when you're going and put your hand over it, yeah, you feel it. But again, I get used to it. And if you're someone who thinks that'll bother you, definitely try it out first, like in a store before you actually get it, because some people may find it a little bit annoying, but honestly, the way you use the phone, you end up not really putting your hand over it as much. So I'm perfectly fine with it. And you can use an S Pen on the inner display as well. And that's technically where you'll see and feel the crease the most, and it may bother you a little bit, but besides that, I don't really use the S Pen a lot. So the main reason is because I wish I could use an S Pen on the outside, only because I like to use my S Pen for my tablets on my phones, and I can't do that here, so I don't really end up using the S Pen for the Z Fold 3. And as far as that inner display, it is going to be a 7.6-inch 120Hz 1440p dynamic AMOLED display. So what does that mean? It's a Samsung display, so it's honestly going to look really good for watching content, or whether you're just scrolling around, browsing the internet, whatever you're doing, everything's going to look really good. Text is going to be sharp, content is going to be colorful and bright, good quality and smooth as well. The screen gets really bright as well, so if you're outdoors, you'll be just fine. So the whole screen itself is going to be really good for watching content. The speakers are also really nice, so it completes the whole content watching experience because you get some pretty good speakers on here. Then on the front cover display, you have a 6.2-inch 1080p-ish 120Hz dynamic AMOLED display. So this display is also going to be very bright, colorful, and good for just scrolling around and even watching content if you really wanted to, and just reading text. It looks sharp as well. So it's also going to be a good display because it's a Samsung display, but only complaint I have about these two displays is just the fact that you have really different aspect ratios for your displays. So on the front, you have a very narrow and tall aspect ratio. On the inside, you have that big and non-traditional screen size, which also is a different aspect ratio. So some of the apps don't fully work nice with these two different aspect ratios, and some apps may work better on a traditional aspect ratio. But for me, texting is kind of annoying. I don't like using the front display because it's very cramped, and I also don't like using the inner display because I don't like using the big keyboard. It just feels uncomfortable as well. So it's kind of tough for me. Texting is the one thing I don't like doing on the Z Fold 3 with these displays. And then Snapchat. I don't like Snapchat on here either. One, because the camera quality is pretty crap, so I'll talk about that later. But also the aspect ratio messes with the way the snaps are sent. So if you're using the inner display, you can switch it to a 16:9 to get it to send regular size snaps. But if you're using the full display, it sends a big square looking snap. If you're using the outer display, it's going to send a tall and narrow snap, which some people have already noted to me. So I'm like, yeah, then I don't like that because I don't like to stand out from my regular snaps because I just want to send a regular snap, you know? But this could be a non-issue for some other people if you don't use texting a lot or if you don't use Snap at all, then really these things don't matter because everything else is perfectly fine. You don't either the outer display or the inner display because the inner display is best used to its advantage by multitasking. So I'll get into that later because yeah, this display, the main reason I love it is because it's big enough to be able to nicely multitask on it. And also real quick, I want to talk about the biometrics available on here. So you have the traditional fingerprint sensor and you also have facial recognition. So the fingerprint sensor is used on the power button. It's embedded into it and it's very fast, very reliable. Have like no complaints about how it works and how fast it is. But I have a little bit of a complaint with the settings that it has available. And of course I can turn these off, but they're also convenient, so I want to keep them on. So the first one is you have the ability to have it always on. So basically you don't have to press down on the power button. All you gotta do is lay your finger on it and it senses your finger and you're in. That can cause some accidental unlocks. So if you're not trying to unlock it and just holding your phone, you might accidentally unlock it. And you can also use the fingerprint sensor as a gesture pad, which can be used to bring down a notification panel. Again, it's very convenient, but you're also accidentally triggering it sometimes. So you can be in the middle of an app and accidentally bring down a notification panel without you trying to, which can be annoying. But besides that, it's still a really good, reliable fingerprint sensor. You also have facial recognition, as I said, and you can use the outer display camera, which works pretty fine. And then the inner display camera you can use as well. But the inner display camera does suffer when you're in a low light situation. So if you're in a dark environment, it definitely won't read you. The outer display can read you most of the time, but when you're in a very dark pitch environment, it definitely will struggle a little bit. But again, that's why you have the fingerprint sensor. As far as the everyday usage and performance, you're going to get the Snapdragon 888 with 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage on the base model. And for me, it's been running pretty well. I will say that every once in a while I will experience some choppiness in the animations, or I have to wait a couple seconds because there's a delay whenever I'm opening up a couple apps, especially when I'm trying to multitask. I'll always experience a really slow animation or no animation at all, but it's just very slow to load. So it can be a little bit slow at times, or not slow, but choppy at times. But besides that, I still get a pretty good experience. You can play some games on here as well. It is a fun experience because of course you got that inner display. So some of the games look and perform or just run really well on a big display. So you can take advantage of the display and get a more immersive feel. But even then they still run and perform really well in my opinion. And then there's multitasking, which I use all the time, as I've mentioned a couple times already in the video. And like I said, there are going to be sometimes where you do experience choppiness, but with the software, with One UI, you get so many features on here that really lets you just multitask like a beast. So let's go ahead and talk about the software, which is One UI. One UI has a lot of features, everything from being able to customize your device with like good lock or just stock settings. You can really change up how you want your device to look and feel. But the main thing that it does with the Z Fold 3 is just give you a lot of good features to multitask. So first off is multi-window mode. So this you have to go into lab settings and trigger it so that all apps are forced into it. And as I already mentioned, some apps aren't going to function properly in this mode because they're not optimized and developed to be in this sort of multi-window view modes. So you're going to change up the aspect ratio that may affect the way the app performs. But either way, it's so great that Samsung forces those apps to go into it, and you could take advantage of the multi-window. So that means that you can drop windows on top of windows on top of windows. I don't do that, but you can. You have the option of doing that up to like 6 different apps. What I do is I like to multitask by using 2 apps at the same time by splitting the screen. So I'll put one app on one side and then another app on the other side, or do it top and bottom. You can do up to 3 different apps. So 1 app's on one side, and then on the other side is 2 apps on the top and bottom. So you can push it to that limit if you want to, and the phone handles it pretty well. But I personally just do 2 apps at a time. Usually I'll check my banks at the same time, or I'll open up the calculator app at the same time as well. Or I'll be watching YouTube and then browsing another app on the side. Or you can also use picture-in-picture with YouTube, watch YouTube, and then browse 2 other apps at the same time. So you can really go crazy with the multi-window and do all sorts of things to benefit you to perform and multitask like a beast, as I mentioned previously. And you also have the Edge panel, which helps with that multi-window. So the Edge panel hides to the side. You can hide it away, and you just drag it over and start to drop all kinds of apps. Again, you can drop them as multi-window or drop them into multitasking. So the Edge panel is really nice, and there's a lot of talk about that new Z Fold 4 feature, which is a little bit improved, where you have that taskbar at the bottom. You can kind of already do with the Z Fold 3 with the Edge panel. You just pin the Edge panel and you have a little sidebar there. Again, it's probably not as nice as it is with the Z Fold 4 taskbar, but it's still something you can already kind of work around with and make it happen. The last feature I want to talk about is flex mode. So this mode allows you to basically bend or fold your phone into its own kickstand, and then be able to have one app fully function on the top half, and on the bottom half, if it's optimized, it'll have some extra settings, or put it into a generic flex mode by going into labs and forcing that app to go into flex mode, and then allows you to have some generic settings at the bottom. So this is great for a lot of streaming apps. Some streaming apps are optimized for it, but some of them aren't. So for example, I use it for YouTube a lot. So I just usually prop it up, and then my comments and all that basic stuff like the description and stuff like that is at the bottom, and then the video itself is at the top. The only issue I found when I'm using it with YouTube is if I'm switching constantly between flex mode and full screen mode, it may cause the app to freeze and like crash up, and then you can't, actually use the app. It becomes unresponsive, so you have to close the app and reopen it. So that's a little bit annoying. I don't know if that's something with Samsung or with YouTube itself, but either way, you will encounter some weird bugs here and there, but it's still cool that you can do it because it's very convenient. As far as software support, you are going to be getting 3 years of OS updates and then 4 years of security updates, but it's already been a year, so now you're down to 2 years of OS updates and then 3 years of security updates. Definitely think they could have added another year in there, especially since the Z Fold 4 is being promised with 4 and 5, but the phone should still be able to handle it and survive till then. Now, as far as build and as far as durability, it might not last that long, but maybe if you take care of it pretty well, it should. But as far as the processor and stuff like that, it should be able to handle multiple more years of life. But now let's get into the cameras. As far as these cameras, you're going to be getting a basic but great camera system here. You're not going to be getting anything crazy like super space zoom or 8K. You get the basics, which for a user like me who's just pointing and shooting is more than enough for me. But you also have some pretty cool new tricks up your sleeve to take photos and videos. Personally, I don't take advantage of them because I'm just pointing and shooting, so I end up just using the phone folded when I'm taking photos and videos, which can be a little bit annoying because you have a small preview compared to a traditional screen size, but either way, it still gives you some cool tricks. So with the front camera, you are going to get a pretty decent selfie, so no complaints here. But you can use the main camera lenses to take a selfie as well, which just means you get a main lens to take a selfie, which photos end up looking much sharper and much better, or not, maybe not much better, but much sharper and a lot better in my opinion. So you can do it as well. Same thing with video, record video selfies on the back as well, or you can record selfies on the front camera as well, and you end up getting 4K 30 on either one that you choose. You just get the options of making it a little bit more sharper and choosing which lens you want to use. So the lenses on the back do look pretty good for photos as well. Whether you're using the ultra wide, the wide, or the telephoto, you're going to get a sharp photo, good quality, good color as well. Of course, it does have the traditional Samsung color looking style to it. So colors may be a little bit too poppy for some people, a little bit too saturated on some styles or some situations depending on what you're taking a photo of. So that depends on what you prefer or what you like. But the one disappointing thing kind of is that you can only zoom into 10x, which is just a tad bit disappointing. I wish you could have zoomed in a little bit further. Of course, the new Z Fold 4 is improved in that, which is pretty cool. And video, you can record up to 4K 30 on all 3 lenses, or if you really want to, you can record 4K 60 as well, but just on the main lens. But either way, video quality also looks pretty good. So, and since I don't take a lot of photos and videos, for me, when I need a quick video, it looks pretty good. And those new cool tricks that you have is one I already mentioned, that you can take a selfie with the main camera, but you can also show a preview. So if you're filming someone or taking a video or photo of someone, you can show them what you're filming and they can see themselves. So you can get them to see what you're seeing and line themselves up or something like that. Or you can also prop the phone up and be able to use the phone as its own kickstand or prop stand, whatever you want to call it, and take a photo of yourself or of a group or film stuff. So that's pretty cool as well. So the only complaint I have about this as well is Snapchat quality with social media. I'm assuming other social media apps may not be working as well with the camera system as well as Snapchat. So quality doesn't look that great. I already complained about the aspect ratio. So the aspect ratio plus a bad camera quality on Snapchat means I don't really use it. And I forgot to mention it, but I also don't use it. Under display camera, it's just not that great. If you wanted to use it, you can, but yeah, you're not going to get good results. So you have it there if you wanted to. But besides that, the camera system is pretty good overall. It's just not perfect in some certain aspects or not super crazy in the features that it has, but it's still a really good camera system in my opinion. As far as battery life, you do have a 4,400 milliamp hour battery. So I get about 2 to 4 hours screen on time. So I end up scratching about just about a day's worth of battery. On more heavy days where I'm using the phone heavily or more, I end up having to charge it on the afternoon. So with that, you have to charge with 25 watts of charging, which takes about just over an hour. So it's not that great either. So it definitely will depend on your usage as well, of how your battery does and how you use it. So some people may experience worse battery life, some people may experience similar or better battery life, but for me, it's been okay. It definitely can be improved in the future. So hopefully the Z Fold 4 or in the future, it definitely is a lot better. But besides that, battery is okay. So should you go out and buy a Z Fold 3 or a folding phone for that matter? If you're a social media user or a simple user that just uses their phone for like texting, uses one app at a time, doesn't do anything crazy, doesn't even bother multitasking, then I would say no. Because this phone, I would only recommend to people that are multitasking beasts. If you love the multitask on your phone, you're going to love the Z Fold 3 or any folding device for that matter, and definitely would recommend checking it out. But I would definitely say try and see if you can get the Z Fold 4 that it was newly announced. If not, find a good deal with the Z Fold 3 and definitely check it out because I still think it's a really good phone. Personally, I'm actually trading in for the Z Fold 4. I'm going to see what the differences are. I did see a couple videos and stuff like that. There are some subtle differences, not huge, but maybe enough to make a difference and warrant an actual upgrade to most people. But I'm going to check it out. But besides that, that's been it. Hope you guys enjoy and peace.